Funding for the art show was made possible by Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District, the Virginia W. Kettering Foundation, proud supporter of the arts in our community, and viewers like you. Thank you.
In this edition of the Art Show, this potter has an unusual connection to her work. Explore 20th century art by an Ohio artist. Tap in the artistic spirit in all of us. And a colony of artists work together to support and inspire each other. It's all ahead on this edition of The Art Show. Hello, I'm Rodney Veal, and welcome to The Art Show, where each week we give you unprecedented access to local, regional, and national artists and arts organizations. Debbie Loffing of Urbana is a self-taught artist working out of her home studio, Mad River Mud. She's an artist who works in pottery, encaustics, and anything else that interests her. Her work is tactile, natural, and at times humorous and whimsical.
I've always thought that I would do art. From a very young age. I loved looking at art. I loved paints. I loved all of that. When I was 18, I started taking classes, just private classes. The first pottery class was very exciting, and I thought, this is me. This is me. I've got to do this. Working in pottery, it's the tactile, it's the feel of the clay. I love layers and building on those layers, and clay just allows you to do that. You can build anything out of clay, and that got me interested and keeps me coming back. I would like something like that. We started, my husband and I, going to garage sales and that kind of thing, and just picking up metal pieces that we really liked. Gears, pulleys, that kind of thing. I would see a piece and I would think, I can put a head on that, or I can make that into a dog. From that point then, that's when I start sculpting. And sometimes I throw pieces, like say the head or the body. I'll shape it like he has a fat belly or skinny arms. And then the next step would be to fire it. And then from there, I apply an underglaze, like a solid color over it. And then I'll come back and I'll do my China painting, which is layers of color. So you get some depth in your painting that way. And that's what makes the characters come to life then. I love taking an object and then turning it into something. When something's completed, I don't always love it at first. I have to kind of let it just kind of sit, and I've got to just kind of take it in. I always end up loving it, but that's not the first initial response. Sometimes I've spent so much time that I'm actually tired of that piece. So sometimes I have to just kind of get away from it. Or I have to see it through new eyes, like taking it to a show or something and having someone else see it. Being in my studio, it's kind of a meditation, actually. I just kind of start fiddling around, and before I know it, I've been out there a while. And it's just, it's relaxing, and it's where I like to be. I'll work in small bursts and go out there because I know I need to get things done. When I'm just able to work at my own pace, I slow it down and take my time. I love gardening, and so I started making my own pots, which a lot of potters do. And I like whimsical faces. I would sculpt these face pots, and then I would search out plants that would make unique hair. I think they all have like this little story, and they're funny. We try to do funny and whimsical stories. The yard art is a collaboration of my husband and myself, and we started just kind of garage sailing and antiquing and that kind of thing. We found that we both appreciated rust, apparently, metal, and so then we built a totem together and just found out that we really enjoyed it. I think as an artist, a lot of times it's just what's in your heart. It's your taste and the aesthetics of what appeals to you. I love where I'm at right now. I love what I'm doing. I love that I can incorporate other things that I've learned over the years with my sculptures. I can China paint them, I can glaze them, I can use graphite on them if I want. I'm at a spot where even though I feel like a jack of all trades, it has helped me to get where I am. People get a kick out of seeing it, and that keeps me going. I love that. I love that people see humor and enjoy it.
Check out the art show page at thinktv.org for a link to Debbie's work and upcoming exhibits. The Ohio History Center in Columbus featured works by 20th century Ohio artist Emerson Burkhart. Burkhart, who was born near Kalida, Ohio in 1905, ruled the Columbus art scene during the 1950s and 60s with his portraits and depictions of life in the city. While he was praised for his artistic skill, conflicts in his personal and professional life prevented him from receiving national attention. Curator Emily Lang reflects on this important member of the Columbus arts community.
Emerson Burkhart's probably best known for the sheer amount of art he created in terms of different mediums. He experimented with paintings, with block prints, with murals, with painting ties for a while. But generally speaking, he's kind of regarded as a regionalist in terms of his artistic style. He was born in Kalida, Ohio in 1905. After he graduated from Kalida High School, he went to Ohio Wesleyan and got his degree in art. Then after he graduated, he went to Providence, Massachusetts, and studied with Charles Hawthorne, who's a fairly well-known American artist. And he ended up moving back to Columbus, where he spent the remainder of his art career. He married his wife, Marion Martin, and they bought a house in Old Town East, and that's where he lived the rest of his life until his death in 1969. A regionalist is someone who focuses on the area that they live in. It was a very popular art form in the 1930s and 40s. It kind of emerged, you see a lot of that with the WPA projects, which Emerson Burkhart kind of got in on the tail end of. That's kind of something that always affected him for the rest of his career, is because he's a regionalist painter in the 1950s and 60s when modernism is becoming quite popular, and his contemporaries are Jackson Pollock. I think art critics tend to contextualize him as kind of falling behind the times. Talented, but a little behind. He was always kind of a day late and a dollar short, and never really achieved the national acclaim he kind of thought he deserved, because he wasn't being necessarily innovative in the form that was really happening in the American art scene during the 1950s and 60s. I think there's been a reevaluation of his work in recent years. He's a very talented artist. The details of his portraits are unmatched. And we had a very large collection of Emerson Burkhart pieces that had mainly never been exhibited before. And Michael Hall wrote a book recently, he used to be the folk art curator at the Columbus Museum of Art, about Emerson Burkhart, and kind of revitalized him in the Columbus art scene. And so we've had a lot of interest in this collection recently. So we decided to do an exhibit on him and get out pieces that had never been seen to the public before. On exhibit is a watercolor of Redbird Stadium, which later became Cooper Stadium. So that's something that a lot of people in Columbus will recognize. So Emerson Burkhart was becoming fairly well known in Columbus for his portraiture by the 1950s. And so in 1951, the Thurber family approached Emerson and commissioned him to do a portrait of the family matriarch, Mame, Mrs. Thurber. Well, Mame, as she was known to her family, also was very dramatic. And I was always a little jealous, I think, of her son, James' success. And so when she received the portrait back from Emerson once it was completed, she was so appalled that she refused to accept it. And so Emerson was so offended that he had James Thurber, who by this point was going blind, so probably couldn't even see the portrait, sign the back of it saying, "I approve of this portrait." But Mrs. Thurber still would not accept the portrait, so it kind of bounced around Columbus until it ended up back at the Thurber house. They actually keep it in the attic where the residents stay as kind of an homage to Mame's wishes to never see it in the house. So my favorite painting is probably the most tragic. It's a portrait of his wife, Mary Ann Martin. Mary Ann and Emerson met when she was 15 and he was 28. She was an artist model, but their relationship was always sort of tragic right from the beginning. They were two very passionate people. There was a lot of resentment between the two because Emerson was a well-known womanizer and Mary Ann was an alcoholic. And so in this piece, where he paints her, she's 26 years old, and he puts her in this kind of girl-like clothing, and he paints her in dark colors and makes her look much older than the 26 years old that she is. So I think it says a lot about the relationship and the dichotomy between the two and kind of how tragic it was right from the beginning. And she ended up dying at the age of 38 due to liver disease. So visitors will get to experience a little bit of everything that Emerson did. They'll get to see the clothing that he wore. They'll get to see the people he painted, the places he lived, really fully understand him and why and how he created the art that he did.
While Burkhart's work is no longer on exhibit at the Ohio History Museum, the flagship museum in Columbus features over 60,000 square feet of galleries, including a full-size 1950s Lustron home. We receive quite a few emails each week, so keep contacting us with your story ideas. Let us know what sets you apart from other artists. Send an email to theartshow@thinktv.org. Include contact information and links to performances or art samples online. Up next, Vegas, home of the showgirls and casinos, also hosts creative professionals that span the spectrum of the visual and performing arts. Sculptor Sharon Gainsbourg takes us to her studio to share her knowledge of crafts and insight into the artist and all of us.
My name is Sharon Gainsbourg. I'm a sculptor, teacher, and creativity coach. I have been sculpting now for 40 plus years. I have been in Las Vegas coming up on 9 years. This is a sculpture that I did recently. It was a very thin piece. This stone comes from southern Utah. Here we have a piece that is local, and this is called root beer or Nevada alabaster. I'm originally from Philadelphia, where I started sculpting in clay when I was 20. I stayed with clay for 10 years. Someone saw my clay work and said, "Oh, you have to take stone." And I bought a piece of stone and 3 hits on the stone, and that was it. It was a relationship that I formed with this material that's millions of years old instantaneously. This stone, also alabaster, comes from Sicily. This is called Eternal Light, and it's actually my most recent sculpture. To sculpt, you have to be very committed. It's almost like having a fire in your belly. And you also have to be very patient. Sculpting taught me about patience, and it also taught me a lot about life. Because when you're sculpting and a piece falls off that you weren't counting on and your design is ruined, you have to dig deeper to come up with a better design to incorporate the area that's missing. But that's what we have to do in life. Something happens, you have to take a detour. There are 5 basic steps in sculpting stone. First is blocking out your form. The second is refining it. The third is dry sanding it. The fourth is wet sanding. And the 5th step is putting some type of liquid sealer and buffing it. This is an automatic power-driven chisel. This is going to make a little bit of dust. My favorite step is the conceptualization of finding the forms to express what I want to say. The process is fluid when you just go with whatever your intuitive self is telling you to do. Well, if I had to put a label on the type of work that I do, I call it abstract realism. You can always find a realistic form somewhere buried in the abstract forms. And I like to do that because I want people to use their intuitive sense or an emotional connection to the work. Welcome to the studio where all the magic happens. These are my rock stars. I'm a teacher coming up on about 37 years. What I tell my students is, you come here 3 hours once a week, but while you're doing your job, or if you are retired, be more aware of being in the now. Just take a few minutes every day and look at your surroundings and tune in to what's around you. Look at color, smells, form, and you will start developing a language.
Did I have this shape in mind? No, it's an abstract. It was one solid, almost square piece, and what Sharon is teaching me is to continue to round it and get rid of the flat parts. And so as I work, I see.
I've enjoyed every moment of working on this piece. Even the painstaking parts of the sanding, things like that, have really been a joy. So in the process, all your troubles melt away.
I believe that we are all creative, but most of the time the focus on one's life is providing an income, and we put creativity aside.
In every way, it is worth, I mean, I couldn't be paid enough to have the fulfillment and the joy that I have out of this. I just feel alive again. You know, there's something tapped that was inside of me, a passion of some sort that I just never realized until I started sculpting. I can barely tie a ribbon, I can barely tie a knot, but I can sure bang on a rock and create something.
To me, it's a spiritual thing because God chips at us to try to make us come out beautiful, and it's just too amazing for me.
There's a universal consciousness that stone has. And if I told students when they took the class, they would say, cuckoo, but they get it once they start working with it. When a person is dealing with frustrations in life, they're going through rough times, and we all have had it. Come here and take it out on the stone. Be kind to each other, but take it out on the stone. Beat the heck out of the stone. People need to get in touch with a piece of their soul that they never knew existed. When you believe in something and you stay with it, and you believe in yourself for so many years, the rewards are great. What I'd like people to know about me as an artist is that I've always lived my truth, and you see that in my work.
Did you miss an episode of The Art Show? No problem. You can watch it on demand at thinktv.org. You'll find all of the previous episodes, as well as current episodes and links to the artists we feature. Above a cigar cafe in the heart of Tampa, Florida, a collection of artists have come together to create, collaborate, and inspire. Here's a look at their thriving art colony.
I am a painter.
I love color. I'm a colorist. That's primarily my passion, is color and energy.
So I practice law and I paint. I call it whole brain living.
Watercolor's my primary medium. It's my real passion.
As an artist, we all like different medium. You can do oil painting, acrylics, watercolors, pastels, pencil, charcoal. For me, my chosen medium is graphite, pencil.
My idea for the colony as a director is to build a community of like-minded artists to project a positive energy and influence to the city of Tampa about what the arts can be and how it could be a tool to help build the city in an even greater way.
When you start working with other artists, you start to share ideas and it starts to open up your world.
You know, we have little conversations in the hall or in each other's rooms, and it's a really great place that we can all connect and come together as a group and try to create another entity of, you know, who we are as a group as well as individuals inside that group.
After spending several years at home painting in my garage, I found that being around other artists just expanded my professional career as an artist tremendously. Just meeting other people, sharing ideas with them, and then being able to find out about other shows, and not only as an artist, like as a techniques, but also just in knowledge of how to present your art professionally, how to write a bio, how to put your art up on the web. And all these things are things that you benefit from knowing other artists and being involved with a group of other artists, such as the colony here.
We, as artists, we smell the same. When you walk into the colony and there's a familiarity, and one of the metaphors that we hear in familiarity, oh, this smells like my grandmother's kitchen. And that's just a certain aroma. It doesn't mean it's good or bad, but it's familiar. And once there's a familiarity to it that you want to, you feel, okay, I'm relaxed. And by that relaxation, it means that you open up to fellowship, to talk, and to expose. And that exposing causes all sorts of other things to go. That's that first domino.
The Wandering Eye Art Gallery started with just a few of us who found out that the storefront downstairs was empty and also available for lease. We started with the windows. We asked if we could just display the windows since it was an empty storefront. And little by little, artists started to come to us. Some of them are from the colony up here, but others just came from the street. We had people just walk in. Of course, artists are always attracted to a gallery, so we had a lot of artists walk in and just ask if they could be a part of our group. Once a month, we feature one of our artists and we give them the middle of the gallery. We have live music, we have food and drinks, and people come from all over to our parties to be able to see who the featured artist is. There's very few places that an artist can show their art here in Tampa, so this gives them a venue. Also, if you're in the gallery, you have to work the gallery. So that gives you a great opportunity to find out what people are saying about your art, to talk to people about their art. People love to meet the artists.
I love this space in Ybor City. I love the energy of the street. I have this space overlooking 7th Avenue, and I love the people walking by and just the energy of the whole experience.
You have parades going on, you have people just start singing on the street, you know, reciting poetry. It's amazing. And I'm in the studio and I might cut my CDs off and I just open the window and I'm still getting music. I'm getting the streets, the motorcycles, the rumbling. Most of the time it works for me, and it gives me new energy to get back to my paintings, and I smell the coffee coming off the street. It's really a great experience.
I grabbed a lot of inspiration whenever I came to Ybor. It has so much history and life to it. There's a lot of culture here, but also a lot of urban decay, which is kind of perfect for me. There's an abandoned streetcar a few blocks from here that no one sees, and I love just finding that and uncovering it. And there's a water tower that's rusted that has so much life to it. I never expected to become an Ybor artist, but there's just so much inspiration to draw from.
I just love this room. I feel like everyone should have a room like this where you could just come and turn the music on and dance and paint. It's a wonderful thing.
When you're in Ybor, you'll fit in. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to fit in here because there isn't a standard. Anybody can come here and feel like they can be a part of this, and it doesn't matter what you're dressed like or what you look like, but you'll always fit in Ybor. If you don't fit in anywhere else, you will fit in Ybor City.
Here at the Ybor Art Colony, there are so many different kinds of artists, and I think that people would really be surprised if they knew how many creative people we have here, not only in Tampa, but also in St. Pete right now. The whole area is bursting with creativity. And I mean, I really think that Tampa St. Pete is going to be one of the next hubs, kind of like in Austin or New York or San Francisco, because it really is happening.
And that wraps it up for this edition of The Art Show. Until next time, I'm Rodney Veal, and thanks for watching.
Funding for the Art Show was made possible by Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District, the Virginia W. Kettering Foundation, proud supporter of the arts in our community, Ohio Arts Council, Ohio Humanities Council, and viewers like you. Thank you.